In February 2025, Pluto, the planet of transformation and death, will return to the same position it held when the USA was founded. This Pluto return signals the end of a 248-year cycle and the beginning of a major transformation for America. Just as the founding of the United States reshaped the world years ago, this period of change can bring about a global shift once again. But there is more to this story. This Pluto return takes place in Gate 41. In human design, Gate 41 symbolizes the initiation of a new cycle, not just for the United States, but for the whole world. This indicates that we are approaching a turning point this winter, when we could start to feel the winds of change. My name is Natalia.mogilnaya. I'm a professional human design analyst. This channel is for those curious about human design, a science of differentiation and a powerful tool for self-discovery. It is not astrology. All the transits I discuss here are viewed specifically through the lens of human design. In this podcast, we'll explore the transits from November 2024 through April 2025, focusing on the ongoing crisis and the shifts it might bring in the coming months. We'll kick things off with the big picture and then dive into each month in more detail. I have both good news and bad news for you. Though remember, the idea of good and bad is really just a matter of perspective. So let us take it step by step. We'll start by looking at three slow-moving planets, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, which are setting the stage for the period. Let us begin with Pluto. As the slowest of these three planets, Pluto's influence on the world is inescapable. Pluto is the ruler of our evolution. It makes the wheel turn. For the last few years, Pluto has been in Gate 16, known as the Gate of Limitation. It's been bringing to light everything that's outlived its purpose, urging either transformation or distraction to clear space for something new. This pressure to mutate can feel heavy, depressive, and this is playing out in both societies and in our individual lives, touching us deeply right down to our physical bodies. The second slow-moving planet is Neptune. It helps Pluto in its transformative and mutative process. What does Neptune do? It helps Pluto by gently dissolving the old. For several years by now, Neptune has been moving through Gate 36, the gate of crisis and darkening of light. Neptune's energy is very interesting. To illustrate its influence, think of a house standing on stilts in the water. Over time, the water slowly erodes the stilts, but this damage is not apparent on the surface. This is how Neptune works in Gate 36. It makes the crisis feel somewhat obscured. It is like we recognize that the world is in crisis and that everyone is facing their own struggles, yet it often seems like a hazy reality. We hold on to certain illusions about this situation. Gate 36 belongs to the emotional center, which means that this theme of crisis is closely tied to emotional upheaval. Neptune immerses us in a vast ocean of feelings, where we often find ourselves overwhelmed. The third planet working alongside Pluto and Neptune is Uranus. Uranus also plays a role in transforming the world, but its approach is very different. While Neptune subtly dissolves the old world through crisis, Uranus brings in change in an explosive, revolutionary, and shaking way. While Neptune washes away the old, Uranus brings and introduces the new. So, what is that new that Uranus is currently bringing? For about a year and a half, it has been going back and forth in gate 23 and gate 8. Gate 23 is the gate of splitting apart. In this gate, Uranus is reshaping our understanding of the world by fostering diversity and introducing new value systems, new beliefs, new ideas that emerge very quickly and sometimes even unexpectedly. These shifts can often be surprising when, for example, we meet new concepts that were just a short time ago unimaginable. And suddenly they are spreading and gaining supporters. In gate 8, which is called the gate of holding together, Uranus conditions people to unite around these new beliefs, values, and ideas. And this process is especially noticeable in geopolitical contexts. Over the past year, we've seen a striking transition from one polar world to a multipolar world, where diverse perspectives are gaining support and creating new foundations for new unions. Well, with that necessary background in mind, let's dive into the monthly transits overview. And let's start with November. Let's take a closer look at November. Throughout this month, we'll be experiencing these three key themes brought by these three slow-moving planets. We're feeling the pressure of limitations, observing how everything that is unwilling to change is reaching a dead end. We're navigating a whole complex of emotions due to the ongoing crisis that shows no sign of resolution yet. And we are witnessing the emergence of new alternative perspectives in the world, along with process of holding together and gathering together, gathering around these new worldviews, which are gradually being assimilated in the world. At the same time, there is a sense that something is about to happen, right? I believe you all can feel that to some extent. It feels like we have reached a tipping point where things just cannot continue as they are. And remember, I promised a good news and a bad news for you. So here is the good news. A good news is that I believe that November is the last month when we will have this sense of kind of stagnation without any resolution. To accurately describe the weather in November, I need to say a few words about lunar nodes. The nodes are currently transiting through gates 17 and 18. Their theme revolves around the search for formulas for a collective, safe future. I have a separate video where I break down this transit in detail by each line and by each month. It's called Is Safe Future Possible? So please feel free to listen to it if you want more detail. I will put a link to the description of this video. So in short, now we are at the point with the lunar nodes where the collective is fanatically focused on fixing what has been spoiled in the past. And specifically in November, during the first half of November, the nodes will create a sense of urgency to rush and take the shortcut, as if we are running out of time to make corrections. And against this backdrop, we'll be navigating the elections in the US. What the outcome will be, the position of nodes in the second half of November hints at this. They will bring us feeling that the game is over. What was once broken and spoiled can no longer be fixed. And here, Raif Eugene suggests that there are two possible reactions to this situation, to this feeling. Either acceptance of things as they are, with a faith in spiritual rebirth, and with the possibility of exchanging opinions, or a futile rage against the wind, feeling furious about the inability to change anything and refusing even to consider the other side's perspective. And I'd like to remind you that all of this is layered with the pressure of limitations, indicated by Pluto, and emotional crisis, indicated by Neptune, and attempts to hold together around new perspectives. So, of course, I cannot predict the results of the US elections, and human design generally doesn't forecast events at all, but I'm describing the general vibe, the general state that will be present in the world during this period. And of course, this isn't just about the US. These influences affect the entire world, but each place has its own context. So you can apply what I have shared to you to your local context. You can also reflect this in your individual life. You can become aware of this and observe how the program influences you. And here I would like to remind you that please do not let these influences consume all your attention or dictate your decisions. Remember that the most important things are happening not outside of us, but within. Yes, this is the current weather, but what you should do specifically is up to your individual choice. Follow your strategy and inner authority. They will help you to see what is your inner truth in any circumstances. What is your individual limitation? What is your true, not externally exposed feelings are? What are your personal crises about? What is that inside you that requires transformation? All the answers are within you. Okay, now let us move on to December. This is when the changes begin. And this is another piece of good news for those who have been waiting for the changes and for those who love new experiences. Okay, so what's happening in December? Jupiter, the planet of expansion, enters gate 35, which represents change and progress. In our body graph, in our human design, gate 35 connects with gate 36, where, as you remember, Neptune currently is, forming a channel 3536. It is called the channel of transitoriness. So, what this means, all the accumulated crises, all the suppressed feelings will find an outlet in gate 35. The crisis can finally manifest itself as change and progress. This channel 3536, will be active in transit through December, January, February, March, and April, a total of 5 months. So it's a very long transit. And I assume the world will not be the same after this transit. We will see changes. Now, this next bit of information might sound like a bad news for some, but again, it's all about your perspective. When a cycle ends, we need to understand that when a cycle ends, something old has to leave, and we need to be ready to let it go and say goodbye. This calls for emotional maturity and awareness, of course. The one thing that never lies when a cycle truly ends is our feelings. We always sense when something is wrapping up, when something is coming to an end. It's a part of our human experience. Our lives are cyclical, and new experiences are always accompanied with emotions. And the first sign that something coming to an end is often how we feel about it. And letting go of the old to make room for change isn't always easy. It is simpler for those who have been honest with themselves, who haven't buried their heads in the sand, and have made necessary adjustments along the way, staying in sync with that current underlying energy demanding inner transformation. Such people are more likely to embrace the change constructively and even experience significant positive progress in their lives. But those who resisted reality might face strong pushback and struggle with acceptance. Remember, I mentioned that the US is coming to the end of its current cycle. Something is reaching its conclusion, and society will have to face it emotionally. And how people respond, and more importantly, how these emotions are expressed, will depend on their level of emotional maturity, of course. I use the USA as an example because it's something we all recognize. But as I mentioned before, each of you can apply this information to your own context and observe how these changes might play out. I don't want to dig too deep into this right now, but if I were to offer one piece of a practical advice to help people stay grounded, I would say that from December through April 2025, while this channel 3536 is in transit, you should avoid making any life decisions, especially big life decisions, based on those state when you are emotionally charged. You should wait. It's time that brings clarity, because the emotional intensity in the collective field will be very, very powerful. And in the midst of all this, it can be really hard to truly hear yourself. And this is especially true for those with a defined emotional center, but even more so important for those with an open emotional center, because you feel these emotional waves more strongly. In December, Pluto will still be in gate 60, the gate of limitations. So these changes and transformations will come with certain restrictions. Meanwhile, Uranus retrograding into gate 23, the gate of splitting apart, indicates that these changes will also bring about some level of division in the society. Okay, let us move to January. January's overall energy feels kind of similar to December, with one key difference. The lunar nodes will shift to the axis of gate 25 and 46, and we will enter 2 months of pure spontaneity and uncertainty. Here is just a brief overview. So, change, progress, and transitoriness of experiences will demand that everyone stays deeply in touch with themselves, with spirit, and with their body. The 25th gate is about spirit, while the 46th gate represents the vessel for the spirit, our body. If you're in tune with your body, listening to it and expressing your true nature, your true spirit, you'll find yourself in the right place and at the right time. On a collective level, I would describe this as a time when masks may fall, and we may witness both terrible and also beautiful expressions of the human spirit. Regardless, these 2 months carry a lot of uncertainty and changes, as well as new experiences Please do not make decisions based on emotions in the moment. Listen to your strategy and to your authority. Okay, moving forward, February, March, and April. Now I would say buckle up. Our plane is entering a zone of heightened turbulence. In February and March, three key events unfold. First, the nodes move into the axis of gate 6 and 36. And this shift adds to the ongoing crisis of the 36 gate activated by Neptune. So this theme of crisis will be empowered by the lunar nodes. But it's not just the crisis. Here we're dealing with gate 36 and also gate 6, the gate of conflict. So we're looking at a few months marked by both crisis and conflicts. So the second event in February, April is that Neptune exits gate 36 and immediately Saturn enters the same gate. Remember my metaphor of the house on stilts. While Neptune was transiting gate 36, its work, dissolving the old through crisis, was happening quietly beneath the surface. It was all covered by illusions. But when Neptune exits the gate, the effects of that process become visible. It's like the house slipping into the water because the stilts holding it up have eroded long time ago. In this case, as Neptune leaves gate 36, we'll start to see the full scope of the crisis that's been brewing beneath the surface for years. The illusions provided by Neptune will fade, and the reality will come into sharp focus. And then Saturn steps in. We could overlook Neptune's subtle influence, but Saturn is different. Saturn's impact won't go unnoticed. It's the planet of structure and discipline. A crisis here points to a structural crisis, the one that underpins the skeleton, the foundation of collective structures. This period is likely to feel more intense than Neptune's influence, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Saturn will stay in gate 36 for only 2 months, and we'll see how much work it will be able to do. And the third event, finally, the third event happening in February and April is that Pluto moves into gate 41 in February. This marks a significant shift. Gate 41 signals the start of a new cycle, which sounds like positive news. This heavy pressure of limitations with Pluto in gate 60 has been deeply challenging and even depressive, but the pressure in gate 41 is very different. It's about desires, the pressure of desires, the pressure of imagination, and a push to move forward and embrace new experiences. At the same time, we still have the transit of channel 35, 36, which is all about progressing, seeking change, and exploring new experiences and new possibilities. So with Pluto in gate 41, all the pent-up emotional crises and feelings of stagnation have an opportunity to be expressed through forward movement, through change, through progress. What a relief, right? But simultaneously, Gate 41, and it's important to understand, Gate 41 also carries the theme of contraction or reduction. So we are shifting from a focus on limitations to a theme of reduction. Earlier, we may have felt stuck in limitations, unable to experience growth anymore, almost breaking even, zero. But now we'll move into a period of reduction, moving below zero, moving into a deficit. Resources will reduce, and this will pressure us to use our imagination to make the most out of very little. I have covered this in more detail in my previous podcast episode. It is called A Few Months Before the Start. So check it out. The link is in the description to this video, and you will understand the deeper meaning of this transit. Anyway, if we summarize the key things I have said about this period, we are looking at the beginning of something new, new experiences, and the pressure to keep moving forward, accompanied by contraction, reduction, and a systematic crisis and conflicts. Wow, what a mix! So this is, in a nutshell, is the weather we're heading into from February, March, and April. At the end of November or early December, I will release a more detailed forecast for the upcoming year 2025. It is going to be a turbulent, emotional, and pivotal year, also full of contradictions. I'll explore it in a broader context of the global cycle shift in 2027. So if you're interested, you're welcome to join me. It will be both fascinating and insightful. You can find a registration link in the description below the video. And a quick reminder, I have an excellent seminar on the shift of the global cycles in 2027 and the transition to the cross of the sleeping phoenix. It is a comprehensive guide for navigating these turbulent times of crisis and change. The link is also in the description. So, the most crucial takeaway I want to leave you with, which is in the core message of human design, is this. Whatever the weather might be, awareness alone is a very good thing, but it is not enough. What matters the most is how you make decisions in your life. We live in a time where no one can tell you what to do amidst these circumstances. The only guide we have is our personal individual strategy and our inner authority. Human design came into the world to help those ready to step into the new era with confidence and alignment with your true self, without fear. Raoul Hu used to say, "Love yourself, you are unique, and there is no choice." And indeed, in this new era, we have no choice but to love ourselves. And self-love starts with understanding of our true nature. You cannot love what you don't know. So if you want to truly know yourself and align with your true self, you're welcome to book an individual human design reading with me. Okay, that's enough for today. Please subscribe to the channel and leave your comments. I believe this information can be valuable to many. See you next time.